Chapter 12. Steve Pullman adjusted the Bluetooth earpiece connected to his two-way radio as he began his 3 a.m. circuit of the perimeter of the Holbrooks home on Marigold Court. They seemed like a nice couple. The job, a job, a cakewalk. It was about time he'd receive an easy assignment. He'd just come off the tour of a young country music star, had battled crazies every night as they stalked her across the nation, following her tour bus, fighting to get close to her. At more than one stop, he had to get physical with a few of the ardent fans, holding them until the police could haul them away. After his grueling time spent on the road protecting the Holbrook from an abusive ex felt like a vacation. His numerous assignments within the music industry, coupled with his military experience in the Middle East, had prepared him for just about anything. How much trouble could a lone man cause him? From his previous experiences, he knew that most wife abusers were only comfortable going up against women. They tended to wilt like a true cowards they were when faced by a man, especially one who was armed. Moving in a clockwise direction, he walked past the front porch and crossed the driveway. He was used to guarding celebrities in their multi-million-dollar mansions. This home was not quite a mansion, but it was large and inviting, and located in an exclusive neighborhood. The kind of place he liked to buy if he ever struck it rich. As he rounded the south corner of the attached garage, he caught a flash of a motion light on the northwest side of the house. Probably just a cat or maybe a raccoon. He didn't really expect the ex to show up, especially not with a truck embolized with a Steel Armor logo parked out front. He ran to the area bathed in the light but found nothing there. Thinking the animal that had triggered the sensor had gone on its merry way, Steve continued his circuit. The lot the house sat on was especially nice. He liked the row of evergreens lining the back of the property, wished his own tiny yard had a green barrier between him and his neighbors. When he reached the patio on the north side of the home, a motion light at the east side flashed on. He rushed to the east end of the house, but again, no one was in sight. He shined his mag light out past the far edge of the lawn, searching for an animal that could have tripped the sensor. Nothing caught his eye. No discernible reason for the light to come on. Hosting his mag light, he headed south back toward the front of the property. He cursed that the motion light on the northwest side came to life again. He ran to that area. This time he saw something in the middle of the lawn. He drew his Glock 22. Glancing side to side, he advanced towards the cylinder object. The hairs on the back of his neck prickled. It was his coffee thermos. He left it locked inside the cab of the truck. So the ex had decided to show up after all? And it seemed like he liked playing games. You want to play tough guy? Steve knew he should follow protocol and radio for backup, but the guy had broken into his truck, had taken something that belonged to him. He wanted to find the ex and teach him a lesson before he called in reinforcements. A Marine could defeat a wife beater any day of the week. First, he checked the truck for damage, and then he'd find the ex. As he headed toward the front of the house, the east light flashed on again. His Glock ready, Steve raced towards the light, hoping to catch sight of the ex before he had time to flee. When he reached the east side of the house, the wife beater was already gone, but he left something behind. Steve recognized the decorative metal pole standing in the middle of the side lawn. It belonged to the Holbrook's backyard, the hook from which a bird feeder once dangled, but the feeder had been replaced by a piece of paper. As he shined his mag light on the paper, a shiver ran through the length of Steve's spine. It wasn't an ordinary piece of paper. It was a photo of his girlfriend, the one she'd given him earlier that evening. The ex had taken a knife to the photo, carving holes where his girlfriend's eyes once were. Was this a threat? Huge mistake, tough guy, Steve yelled into the air, hoping the ex would come out and face him. He had placed the picture in the center console of the truck, right on top of his mail. He shuddered as he realized the wife beater now had his name and knew where he lived. He pulled out his cell, opening his favorite contacts. He tapped his girlfriend's name. Voicemail. "Vicky, you need to go to your mother's house," Steve said into the phone. "Leave as soon as you get this. I can't explain now, but it's not safe at my place." As he disconnected, he hoped his girlfriend would wake and get the message quickly. A line had been crossed. The game had now become personal. When he caught the ex, Steve planned to beat him to a bloody pulp. He walked to the patio, pulled out his phone, and opened the security app. He clicked on the schematic of the house. Whenever a motion sensor was tripped, a red dot would appear on the map in the app. When a light came on, it would stay on for 30 seconds before turning back off. The current status of each light was mirrored on the app. He studied the screen and noticed that the lights were now being triggered in a pattern. First the northwest light, then the east light, and finally a southwest light. The guy was steering clear of the cameras at the front and rear of the house. Steve realized he could cross over into the neighboring yard, circle around onto the street, and cut the ex off at the southwest corner. Then he beat the shit out of him. Timing his jaunt, Steve waited for the east light to flash on. Drawing his Glock, he ran west across the lawn. He crouched next to the magnolia tree in the neighbor's yard, watching the Holbrooks' home. When the southwest light triggered, Steve scanned the yard, but couldn't see anyone or anything that would have been responsible for activating the sensors. As the northwest light switched on, he ran south towards the street. Steve circled around and flew toward the garage, knowing that if the pattern held, whoever had initiated this game of lights was now behind the house. His Glock poised, he edged between the garage wall and a row of boxwood, careful not to trip any of the motion sensor himself. As he neared the end of the wall, he heard a faint noise. Steve froze. A twig snapping? He wasn't sure. Goosebumps danced down his arm as he stood with his back glued to the wall. He didn't have much time. He had to move before the wife beater made it back around to the south side of the house. Steve crept toward the large azalea bush where he would hide and wait for the crazy ex. Panic hit him as he caught movement out the corner of his eye. As he jerked towards the left, raising his Glock, powerful arms clamped around him from behind. He felt a cold steel of a blade rake across his throat. The Glock slipped from his fingers as darkness overtook him. Chapter 13. Ashley woke from a troubled sleep and stretched towards Brett's empty side of their king-size bed. Pulling his pillow to her cheek, she breathed in a scent that still lingered on the case, his cologne. Noticing it was light out, she glanced at the bedside clock. It was almost 5:30. She wondered if he was awake, lying in the guest room thinking about her the way she was thinking about him. Under normal circumstances, her fiancé would sleep until 7. But nothing had been normal lately. At least the night had passed without a visit from Ethan, so she think. He plagued her dreams, taunting her, screaming that he would even their score. She shaken herself awake once, sure he was standing next to her bed, but it had only been a shadow. Where was he now? How much time did she have before he appeared at her doorstep? Knowing she wouldn't be able to fall back asleep, Ashley slid out from under the covers. After a quick shower, she retrieved the two-way radio from the nightstand, left the master bedroom, and crossed the hallway to the guest room. She stood outside the closed door listening for Brett's familiar snore. She wondered whether he'd given any more thought to their wedding, if there would still be a wedding. Hearing nothing, she trudged down the stairs and into the kitchen. With her stomach doing anxious somersaults the past few days, causing her to throw up more than once, she hadn't been eating as much as she should. She picked over her dinner last night and still had no appetite now. but she could use some caffeine. Brett wouldn't be up for a while and he hated stale coffee, but Steve might like a cup. Uh-oh. He deserved it after guarding the house all night. Grinding enough beans for 4 cups, she loaded the coffee maker and switched it on. While she waited for the coffee to brew, she checked the news on her phone. A Nashville television station had posted an update on a prison break. According to their report, the manhunt continued to be centered in Alabama. Law enforcement still thought Ethan was hiding out in the neighboring state. Ashley wished the police hunch was true, that her ex-husband was far away from Briarwood, but she had trouble believing it. It just didn't feel right. Somehow she knew Ethan was closer to home. Pulling two 16-ounce mugs from the cabinet, she filled them with fresh coffee. Steve was probably out front near his truck. She grabbed one of the mugs and headed through the foyer. As she passed the door to Brett's study, she glanced inside. Fear gripped Ashley's heart. She stopped short, almost spilling the coffee. The video monitor in the study was on, and the image from the front door appeared normal, but the image from the patio had turned solid black, the way it had looked before the cable was connected. The feed had been cut. Ashley ran back into the kitchen, put down the mug, and grabbed the two-way radio from the counter. "Steve, something's wrong with the video camera at the back door," she said into the mic, hoping that it would just be a malfunction, that he would tell her everything was under control. She waited. There was no answer. "Steve, are you there?" she asked, panic rising in her chest. Still nothing. Ethan had cut the cable. She knew it. The hairs bristled on the back of her neck as she inched towards the back door. Ashley peered through the glass and saw Steve sitting in one of the teak chairs next to the outdoor dining table, his back towards her. Why didn't he answer the radio? "Steve, can you hear me?" She tried again. The guard didn't move. Something was very wrong. One thing malfunctioning was possible. Malfunctioning. Oh my gosh. One thing malfunctioning was possible, but both the video feed and the radio being out was not a coincidence. She searched along but didn't see anyone else. Ethan could have drugged Steve. He might need medical help. She turned off the security alarm. After checking again to make sure no one else was outside, Ashley pulled open the back door. She stepped onto the patio. "Steve?" The guard still didn't answer or move. Her heart began to pound as she circled around in front of him. Ashley screamed at the sight of the blood covering the guard's neck and shirt. Steve was dead. Chapter 14. Ashley couldn't stop trembling as she sat on the sofa in her family room next to Detective Lansing, repeating events of the morning for the third time, going over everything that had taken place just before she found the guard's body on her patio. She was still having trouble grasping the reality of what had happened. Ethan had murdered Steve. She'd known her ex-husband was a monster, that he seemed to lack a conscience. He left her to die in the pit. But in the back of her mind, she always thought, hoped anyway, that maybe he would have reconsidered. That after a day or two, he would have gone back to the forest and pulled her from the hole himself. Since she'd been found by hunters the very next morning, she had no way of knowing for sure. But now, he had killed Steve with his own hands. He sliced the throat of a man he didn't even know, had no quarrels with, just to terrorize her. An innocent man lay dead. How many more would follow? Although she hadn't wielded the knife, Ashley felt as though Steve's blood was on her own hands. She should have warned the guard about Ethan, should have stressed how crafty her ex-husband could be. If she'd given Steve more details about her ex nature, maybe he would still be alive. Child, I don't think so. Brett sat in a chair across from her, his face pale. He seemed almost as shaken as Ashley felt. She realized it could have been her fiancé who was killed during the night. He was no doubt thinking the same thing. She looked up as a uniformed officer entered the room from the foyer, an evident bag in his hand. "Think we found the murder weapon," the officer said, as he handed the bag to Detective Lansing. Ashley gasped. Through a clear plastic, she could see a folding knife with the Briarwood County Club logo stamped in gold on the ebony wood handle. Brett's knife. You recognize this? Lansing asked. It's mine, Brett spoke up. I won it in a golf tournament last month. It was in the garage cabinet. The uniformed officer looked at him. We found it in your mailbox. Ethan had broken into their garage and stolen a knife. Had he been inside their home as well? Ashley remembered the dream she had. Hovering in the state between sleep and wakefulness, she thought she had seen her ex-husband standing next to her bed. Was it just a dream, or had it been real? I think Ethan may have been inside our house last night, too, she told Detective Lansing. Anything taken or left behind? He asked. She could see guilt in the detective's eyes. He'd already apologized twice for not being able to send a patrol car to their home. She got the impression that he felt partially responsible for Steve's death. No, he didn't take anything, but I think I saw him in my bedroom. At first I thought I was dreaming, but now... Alabama Highway Patrol says your ex is still in their state, Lansing said, as though trying to reassure her that Ethan was miles away. If they notice, why they ain't getting this man? The Alabama police are wrong, she declared. Ethan did this. He killed Steve. He's probably been hiding right here in Briarwood ever since he left the teddy bear at our door. They've gotten sworn statements, the detective reminded her. Your ex can't be in both places. He's got a partner here. Then Ashley didn't doubt that Ethan had someone else helping him, but his partners were in Alabama. Her ex-husband was in Briarwood. I don't know who the police in Alabama are chasing. It could be one of his relatives, one that looks a lot like him, but I'm positive it's not Ethan. The detective swiped his finger across his tablet. She couldn't tell whether he believed her or not. Have your officers found any bubblegum wrapping? She asked. The detective looked at her. Gum wrappings? Ethan is addicted to Buster Grape bubblegum like some people are addicted to cigarettes. Most of the men Ashley knew from Metal Ridge dipped tobacco, but her ex-husband chewed gum. Lansing motioned for the officer to go back outside, probably to check whether they come across any of the wrappers. Then he turned his attention back to Ashley. You said the guard had a radio? He asked. Yes, he gave us a two-way radio so we could keep in touch with him, just in case something... Her voice started to break, a knot forming in her throat. The radio had not been able to help Steve, and she feared that nothing and no one would be able to help her and Brett now. The guard didn't have it on him. It's missing, Lansing said. A chill ran down Ashley's spine. Her ex-husband had Steve's radio. That means Ethan was listening to me this morning, the whole time I was trying to find Steve. This is all a sick, twisted game to him. The radio signal range couldn't be more than a few miles, which meant that her ex-husband had still been close by when she called out to the guard. He may have even been in her garage, hiding and waiting for her to find Steve's body. Ashley heard Detective Lansing's cell ring. He checked his phone screen. Alabama HP, he announced. The detective stood up and paced behind the sofa as he spoke on his cell. From his side of the conversation, mostly one-word affirmations, she couldn't decipher what the police officer on the other end was saying. Maybe they were telling him that what Ashley already knew, that Ethan was back in Tennessee. After Detective Lansing disconnected the call, he eased back onto the sofa and encouraged an encouraging expression on his face. Got a new report, he told her. Ethan Barrett's in Newsom, Alabama. He was spotted an hour ago at a campground. Ashley felt the color drain from her face. Quails Falls? She asked, already knowing the answer. Yeah, you've been there? That's the campground where Ethan and I spent our honeymoon. Don't you see what he's doing? This is all a big setup. A fake site in order to send me a message, to play with my mind. Her ex-husband was using the details from their past to torture her, reminding her that she made a vow to love, honor, and obey him. A vow consummated at Quell's fall. The detective appeared perplexed. He tapped on his tablet. "You're getting a patrol," he said, "even if I have to go over my sergeant's head. They can't stay parked here, not with budget cuts, but they can drive by every couple of hours." Ashley appreciated the detective's efforts to keep them safe, but she knew a police patrol wouldn't make a difference. Because Steve didn't. A 24-hour armed guard hadn't been enough. How could a police drive-by help? She thanked Detective Lanson and walked him to the front door. Brett followed, slipping his arms around Ashley's waist. The first time he touched her since finding out about her first marriage. "I'll call the manager of Steel Armor again," her fiance told her after the detective had left. "See if he's found another guard." With the news of Steve's murder spreading like wildfire, the manager of the private security firm had informed Brett that he was having trouble finding someone else willing to take the assignment. Her fiancé headed toward his study as Ashley walked back into the family room. She wandered to the back door and stared through the glass at the yellow crime scene tape condoning off the patio. Ethan planned to make her suffer. He was playing the ultimate mind game and had every intention of winning, making a sport of spilling innocent blood. She knew he would drag the game out as long as he could. How many people would he kill? Would Brett be next? It didn't matter whether or not the security firm sent another guard. She knew it was time to take matters into her own hand. She had to stop her ex-husband. Ashley refused to allow another innocent person to die. She needed to protect Brett, her family, and herself. She had to think like Ethan, get inside his head. She had to beat him at his own game. But in order to do so, she would need a gun. And she knew just where to get one. See you in the next chapter. Bye.